Welcome to Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. My name's Katie. I'm joining you from Dangerous Lagoon today. So a few of our favorites might be swimming around behind me. The aquarium is currently closed, but we're so excited to be able to welcome you in virtually all this week. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We've got some live trivia happening on our Facebook page for all of our marine enthusiasts. But today I'm joined by some other special guests, also virtually, and they're actually located way out on the West Coast. They're the authors of a new book called Planet Ocean. And the tagline for the book is, a little more than 70% of planet Earth is ocean. So shouldn't it be called Planet Ocean instead of Planet Earth? That really made me think. I think that's really good. Maybe we should adopt that. And so they're going to tell us all about how we're connected to the ocean. So I'd like to welcome the author, Patricia Newman, and the photographer, Annie Crawley. Welcome to the aquarium, ladies, virtually. We hope to maybe have you in person one of these days in future, but for today, it's going to be virtual. So just
Thank you for having us.
Oh, our pleasure. So I'm just going to tell all our friends watching a little bit about your book. So you guys are going to take us through how we're connected to the ocean, even though we here in Toronto don't live near the coast, and some of the things that maybe we can do to help out. And for all of our friends watching, Patricia is the author. She's got lots of books for young readers about a variety of topics. One I'm hoping to check out soon is all about sea otters, which sounds great. And she also won the Green Earth Book Award for a book called Plastic Ahoy, which I think is also very related to what we do here at the aquarium. So welcome, Patricia.
Thank you.
And then the photographer, who the photos are amazing, and you're going to have to go check out her YouTube channel after as well. So our photographer is Annie Crawley. She's been around the world and been diving in so many cool, amazing locations and seen lots of animals that we have here at the aquarium, but out in the ocean. She's a scuba diving instructor. She's in the Women Divers Hall of Fame, which I want to be in a Hall of Fame for something. That sounds awesome. So welcome so much, ladies. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to let you take it away. Friends, if you have questions for Patricia and Annie, you can type them in the comments on YouTube and we will get to some of them at the end. But we're going to let them tell us a little bit about what we need to know about Planet Ocean to start.
Thanks, Katie. It's great to be here.
So while Annie clicks on our presentation, I want to welcome all of you. And we want to show you a couple of slides and videos that we particularly love and showcase not only our book, but our Planet Ocean.
It's great. And so I'm going to just get the slideshow started here for everybody. And really quick about Planet Ocean. It really is a revolutionary book by Lerner Publishing because they trusted Patti and I in our vision for what we wanted. And so when you flip the pages of the book, you're going to see these QR codes. And when you click on the QR code, it takes you to a video that I filmed and that we created to be a part of the book. So you actually get to be in the ocean with us as you're reading the book.
So I've been writing for a number of years. Here are all of the different ways to get a hold of me. I write mostly about environmental topics, some social justice topics, but of course, environmental topics are also social justice topics. I often joke, but I tend to write about the things that make me angry and then I want to fix. So that's basically what you're seeing in front of you right now with some of these most recent book covers. I do a lot of research for my books. Annie took me diving for Planet Ocean. We visited, we're laughing, right? We visited scientists in Seattle. I have visited scientists all over the country. We drove through a blizzard in Denver, Colorado to research black-footed ferrets for our zoo scientists to the rescue. I petted a rhino at the Lincoln Park Zoo for that same book. And for Sea Otter Heroes, I spent a couple of days in a boat. It was hard duty, but somebody had to do it.
Somebody had to do it.
And then, of course, I visit schools. I do a lot of school visits. In fact, I just finished a virtual school visit with a school in Maryland this morning. because after all, kids are my readers, and I love to hear what they have to say about reading, the environment, and writing.
That's great, Patti. And, you know, we have a lot of similar interests, and Patti and I have actually been working together. Planet Ocean is our third title. And here's a few ways that you can get a hold of me. I, too, am a writer, photographer, filmmaker, and Patti and I are really excited about Planet Ocean, why we all need a healthy ocean, and talking to you all today. So I just thought that I'd share with you a couple of things about myself as well. And it's kind of funny how closely Patti and I are connected, because we love to speak at schools as well. Groups, organizations, anything to connect you to our world. So without further ado, this is what I look like when I'm underwater. I'm like, I could breathe. If you look closely behind my ears, you might see where my gills used to be. In all seriousness, this is how I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I have superpowers, that I could breathe underwater. This is my camera that I use. I have a land camera that's inside of this. And this is my land camera. I change lenses when we go underwater, so you could see wide angle and macro. But to connect with you in Toronto, I grew up just a little bit south of you in Chicago. So I didn't see the ocean until after college. This is my first swimming pool from when I was a little girl. And this is my swimming pool now. This photograph was actually taken by Steve Woods. That's me on the right. And that is a baby humpback whale. And it's one of my favorite experiences on the planet. And so when Patti and I talk to you today, I want you to know that we believe that you can do literally anything you dream. I don't believe that we create dreams big enough for ourselves, because if I could grow up in Chicago and go on to travel the world the way that I have, I know you can do anything too. So Patti and I are going to share with you a few things about Planet Ocean and how we chose to insert and have kids understand so much about the sea. When you're looking at these photos, a lot of times we feel disconnected, but I want you to know that at the age of 10 years old, you can actually learn to scuba dive. This is in the Pacific Northwest, which we're right below Vancouver, over on the West Coast. I'm in Seattle. This is in my town on my beach. And these kids and teens were also featured in the book. Patti, do you want to talk about this?
This is a particularly wonderful photo. I got to actually meet Elise in Seattle when we did some research together. But what Annie and I wanted to show was some of the science behind scuba diving in this photo here. We had Elise pose in all of her diving gear, and we've got all of the parts labeled. And after being a student of Annie's, she's an awesome teacher. And there really are children as young as 10 on her dive team who are going below the surface of the ocean and really understanding how they are linked to the sea, which to me is totally cool. And as you probably guessed already, Annie is a fabulous ocean explorer, ocean guide. And while I was considering how to frame this book, it occurred to us that the best thing to do would be to use Annie in the book as a character. So you will hear Annie's voice throughout the book, advising, cheerleading, introducing. So she's a very, very special part of this book, not just the photos, but the text as well.
So with that said, Patti, maybe I should jump in and just let everybody know and recall that I was from Chicago. So even though you're in Toronto, I didn't see the ocean until after college. I didn't learn to scuba dive until after college. So I just hope that these photos and videos can bring you closer to the ocean that we can all imagine, because the ocean is some really cool, bizarre creatures, and I just love the ocean. This is a frogfish. They fish for fish. This is a flamboyant cuttlefish. So the ocean is full of animals that I think are better than cartoons. And
you will see so many, like most of these things look like they could possibly have come from outer space, like the stargazer here that's staring at us. But they are unusual. They are colorful. They make our world possible in more ways than we could possibly name.
Yeah, like this purple hairy squat lobster that lives together in a pink barrel sponge with purple sea stars and purple shrimp. Pretty cool. Or what about this one, Patti?
Oh, these are one of my favorites, Annie. These are Pygmy Sea Horses. Although this is macro photography, making these seahorses look quite large, they're really the size of your pinky fingernail. And the exceptionally interesting fact about these animals is the male carries the eggs until they hatch.
Yeah, so the males get pregnant. So crazy. And, you know, it's not only these bizarre creatures and, you know, we know more about outer space than we do about our ocean. But the other really cool part about the ocean and why we created Planet Ocean, why we all need a healthy ocean, is because we are literally connected to the ocean with every single breath we take. So breathe in and you are breathing ocean, thanks to the phytoplankton mass in the ocean.
But there are so many other ways we're connected to the ocean as well. It provides so much of our food, like these clams here. This video is amazing. I love this video.
That's
Who knew there was clam defense?
Yeah, and so that is, let me just explain real quick. That was a moon snail that was trying to eat the clam. And you're right, Patti, a lot of people like to eat clams. So do octopus.
Right. Right. But there are, again, other ways that we're connected to our ocean. It creates our weather. It provides the basis of our drinking water. It makes trade and our global economy possible. Coral reefs provide lots of medicines for us. So there are just so many reasons we have to be grateful for the ocean.
And it provides entertainment, imagination, discovery. It's you know, the maps are wrong, Patti. Even though we look at, and so when Katie explained that we should be called Planet Ocean instead of Planet Earth, the maps are wrong. We're 70% ocean and 30% land. And we think that if everybody knew the ocean the way that we do, and that you understood that every breath you take, the water you drink, the food you eat comes from the ocean, that we would all understand the importance of the ocean in our lives. Absolutely. So these are, yeah. And I think that, Patti, isn't this one of the questions we always get is why, what about the sharks? And at the aquarium, when you go to Ripley's Aquarium, you get to see sharks. It's just one of my favorite things to do is to swim with sharks.
I love these pictures of Annie at work, snorkeling on the top of the water to take an image, a picture of something that's happening below the water. In fact, when we did Zoo Scientist to the Rescue together, I frequently took photos of her behind the scenes working because I think it's fascinating to watch her at work.
I recruit everybody to become part of my production crew. So, Patti, I'm so happy you became part of my production crew. Everybody always asks us, what's one of your favorite memories? And I'd say coming face to face with this fun humpback whale who thought he was a human playing with us in the water. This was one of the most incredible experiences I've had underwater. And so I thought I'd share this one with you. And back to our our backyards and how important our backyards are. This is our backyard. We want everybody to know that no matter where you live in the world, that we are connected to this. The whales need us. The sharks need us. All of these animals need us to be their voice.
I think we often forget that wherever we live, whether it's inland or on the coast, our watersheds often lead to the sea. And so whatever we produce on land in our communities eventually winds up in the ocean. So our main focus is that we want to share all of these connections with you. We want to share reasons to love the ocean because we protect what we love.
That's right. And so whether you're in Toronto or whether in your Chicago, Seattle, or Sacramento, whether you're in Australia, New Zealand, wherever you're tuning in from today, it doesn't matter where you are. We have one world ocean. And part of Planet Ocean, we included the Arctic. So we hope that you're going to dive into wanting to read it, whether you get it from your library or online somewhere. This is the Arctic Ocean. And this just gives you a feeling of what it feels like to be at the top of the world.
I think one thing that people don't often associate with the Arctic is that we are connected to the ice in the Arctic. And now the ice is melting. And because our ocean is warming, all of that carbon pollution that we're spewing into the air is warming not only our air, but our ocean. And with the ice melting, sea level is beginning to rise, not just in the Arctic, but in Indonesia, near the Coral Triangle, off the coast of Florida, countries around the world. And the melting sea ice is creating climate refugees, people who have to leave their homes on the coast. We spoke with a number of people in Utqiagvik, Alaska, formerly known as Barrow, and they've moved the town at least twice already, and they're going to have to move the town farther inland in the next 10 years or so because of melting sea ice.
Yeah, and for a lot of us, it's really hard to understand this. And we have a really good we have a really good video that's a part of our book that actually shows the simulation of what the sea ice used to look like and what the sea ice looks like now. And so this is just a screen grab of the video. And so there's no denying it that within the Arctic, within the Canadian Arctic, the US Arctic, over on the other side of the world, we're all united. We are global citizens and we are ocean citizens. And as this ice melts, we have a changing world. And we just want you to know that this is very important that we think about how the carbon pollution not only impacts the Arctic and the ice, but how that impacts all of the world ocean. This is over on the West Coast. What you're looking at here is Vancouver Island and British Columbia and Washington, Seattle, where I'm at right now. And the animals in the ocean, they know no boundaries. They don't know the political and the territories that we've created. They only know one ocean. And so the orcas travel throughout the world, but then we have a very special population that lives within an inland sea and around the surrounding waters between British Columbia and Washington State. And so the Pacific Northwest was featured. Patti, did you want to share a little bit?
I do. One of my favorite stories that we include in the Pacific Northwest chapter is about Dana Wilson. He's an elder fisherman in the Lummi Nation, and his story is so powerful. He told us about the way the salmon are actually shrinking in size over several generations. His great-grandfather caught 100-pound fish, and the weight of those fish has decreased over time until now his son is only catching 10 or 12-pound fish. And he asks us, how is an orca going to survive on a 10 or 12 pound fish? And I just think that story is so powerful because his whole culture, his Lummi Nation, they call themselves the salmon people, and they migrate with the salmon. Their songs, their dances, their lives are built around salmon. And as these salmon become harder and harder to catch and maybe even disappear, it's going to affect their entire way of life.
That's right. And this is Dana here on the right. And I was actually able to spend time with Dana, and he shared his story. And I think it's really important that we understand the importance of sustainability, and how Patti shared, how are the orca going to feed? How are any of us going to live without a healthy ocean? And it's not only the orcas, it's the bears, and it's literally our forests. When you core into the wood here in the Pacific Northwest, there's actually salmon DNA in the forest, because the salmon also feeds the forest through the nutrients. And so, visiting the Arctic and including the Pacific Northwest, for us, we also traveled then to the Coral Triangle. And the Coral Triangle is an area in the Pacific Northwest, is an area in the South Pacific that's connected to the Pacific Northwest. And the way that carbon pollution is impacting our world, it is also impacting the ocean through a chemical change that is known as ocean acidification. And so it's not like if you stick your toes in the water that it's going to burn your toes, but it's causing a pH shift within the ocean that coral bleaches, and they could even die. And so we want to help you understand all of these things through our messaging and through what we share in Planet Ocean, and that after this presentation that you're going to want to dive deeper into these topics too. This is Nikki, and she lives in Canada. When she learned to scuba dive, when she was swimming through the water, she saw people that were planting coral. Now, coral is an animal, but she became an ocean gardener. She looked at those people and said, oh my gosh, I've been a gardener on land. Now I want to become a gardener in the ocean. And so this is Nikki with one of her coral gardens in Indonesia. And what scientists do is they replant coral where there's been destruction.
Yeah, Nikki is one of the people that we interviewed. This is Daria. We'd like to use her as an example of all of the different scientists that we interviewed. Daria is brilliant. She's a Turkish scientist who developed an entire algorithm to take a look at ocean images. And this algorithm actually drops the water out of the ocean images so scientists can clearly see and count all of the marine life in that image. And I don't really pretend to understand the science, but it had to do with the way light comes through the ocean as opposed to the way light comes through the air. And she and her colleagues developed new math to figure out how this would work for them. And it's totally amazing.
And it's called the see-through method. And one day there's going to be a click of a button on our computers that's going to remove the water. And it's going to be because of Daria's work with her colleagues and collaborators.
Right.
So with this, we'd like to shift a little bit and tell you about one of my favorite stories. It was the last time when Patti and I worked on the book together. I would be in the Coral Triangle uploading photos and interviews to Patti, and she'd be madly typing away. And this was my last dive in Indonesia that I did as a part of this book. And I know I love turtles, and I know a lot of people in this world love turtles. And so I wanted to film it from the top, from the bottom, from every which way. And as I was swimming along with this turtle, as I couldn't believe it, I don't know if you could see it on your screen, but there was a piece of fishing line that came out of this turtle's bottom. And so it really, we wanted to touch upon carbon pollution, sustainability, and also plastic pollution. And this really is an important topic for Patti and I. We created Plastic Ahoy together, which brings readers to the Garbage Patch, the Garbage Patch. And it was our first project together that raised awareness about ocean pollution. But this is pretty incredible. And so we'd like to take just a few minutes to talk to you about plastic, as we're a week away from Earth Day. And we know that you care deeply about all of the animals in the ocean. And we are going to hopefully work with you with some ideas of how we could stop the flow of plastic pollution into the ocean.
Plastic is probably the most visible of the ocean problems. We don't really see ocean acidification happening. We don't really see the warming of the seas happening unless you're looking at the ice or maybe dead coral reefs. Those are certainly indicators. But plastic always makes us turn up our noses. We're worried that children like this in Indonesia are growing up with this as normal, as, you know, a normal occurrence. And it washes in on the tide every single day. Here's a group of kids with their mentor, Helen, in Indonesia, who go out every Sunday and clean up their beach, of bringing plastic to their trash bank that they built that actually recycles plastic or upcycles plastic into useful goods. So we feature a lot of people like this. Here are Helen and her kids at work in Indonesia. And I think it's important that these are our connections to the ocean. And I think it's important that we realize that our actions on land impact the ocean, even if we don't think they do. Because sometimes that plastic that we think we're recycling, we're not recycling at all. It goes into a landfill, it blows off a trash truck, and once it hits the street, it eventually makes its way to the ocean.
Yes, and that's why everything we do on land impacts the ocean. And remember, the ocean is important for the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe through the oxygen. And so right where you're at, we know that Ripley's Aquarium of Canada cares deeply about the environment and the ocean, and that this is usually your insight into the ocean. So we hope that these slides that we shared give you a sense of what the real ocean is like as well. And so whether you're together with your family doing a cleanup, or, you know, once this pandemic is over, we get to gather together and do these together, we want you to know that what you do matters. And so there's things that you could do in your household. You can go and open your refrigerator and look inside of your refrigerator and think of the things that you could replace. There are so many things that we can do. People use billions of plastic toothbrushes a year. It's incredible. Imagine if everybody replaced those with bamboo, which is a natural reusable resource. And think about the millions of laundry detergent bottles that we could get out of our environment by switching to dehydrated detergent, because what you're buying is water when you're buying these big plastic containers. So there's lots of things that we can do. And we're really hoping to inspire you to not only make individual switches, but to think of ways that you could write letters to corporations, as well as your city and your country's government, because what we do matters.
It has to go beyond. It has to go beyond recycling. If you take a trip to the grocery store, there quite literally is no way to avoid plastic. So we need to use our purchasing power to essentially force companies and legislators to begin making changes, like the Girl Scouts did with Alaska Airlines. They launched a campaign and targeted Alaska Airlines and all of the plastic drinking cups and stirrers that they use on every flight. And Alaska listened.
That's right. And so there's a lot of things that we can do individually, and it's going to take all of us working together to unite, to understand. And we're hoping that you understand that we have to live at one with our environment. And so whether you're in Toronto or any place else in the world, that we are connected to the ocean. So we're going to encourage you to try this challenge. It's a 30-day challenge to see if you can refuse single-use plastic in your life, and to refuse single-use plastic in your life, and to think of ways that you could share with your friends, your family, your community, because there's people that will only listen to you. And the most important thing that I believe that Patti and I want all of our young readers to know and young viewers to know is the fact that your voice matters. There are a lot of things in the ocean that don't belong. This is called creepy baby doll. I hope you went ew when you saw this, because it's pretty scary what's in the ocean. And the turtles need you, the sharks need you, the whale sharks need you, the orcas need you, Dana Wilson and Nikki and all of the scientists need you. We need you to speak up for the ocean and to become the voice of the ocean, because without us, the ocean has no voice.
Your journey can start with Planet Ocean. We hope that you have a good time reading it. We hope that you love it. And we hope that you get in touch with us.
Yes.
So we can amplify your message as well.
Yeah. And so what we were thinking was that we would do some Q&As with our audience through the chat box. And we're just excited to be here with you sharing some stories.
Awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. Annie, those pictures are just, so I feel like I've just had a little vacation through your travels.
Oh my gosh.
So beautiful.
Katie, it's really, it's really impossible to think, like every time I want to just pinch myself, because I really can't believe that where I started and where I'm at right now has truly happened. And I feel so blessed to make the connection with you and with Patti on this level, and to get other people engaged in the conversation and how we're connected to the ocean.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So there was a few questions in the chat, and I definitely have some questions for you myself. A couple of the questions were around scuba diving. So I think you said you can start learning to scuba dive when you're 10. Is that right?
Yes. And so for both Patti and I, like within the world, so many people think the ocean could be a scary place. And we just wish that everybody learned to swim so that they knew that they could explore the ocean. And you can learn to dive at 10 years old.
That's awesome.
Wait. With parent permission. Remember, I didn't learn until after college. And so you can learn to dive at 10 years old with parent permission.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know we have lots of local places here where you can do the beginning parts with the in pool and all that kind of stuff. And it's a question that we often get here at the aquarium as well. When people see our dive team in the water, people always wonder, how can I do that? Can I get in there and do that? And when we're open, we actually let people dive in this exhibit too, if they're certified divers. So there's motivation for you too. You don't even have to go all the way to the Coral Triangle to dive with sharks. You can do it here at the aquarium.
Oh,
how
nice.
great is that? That's
how
so
wonderful.
Great. Yeah.
So Annie, I'm curious, since you didn't get into diving until so late in life, and a lot of people are very interested in diving from a young age, but because you didn't start until you were in college, what was it that sort of got you inspired to get wet and get down there?
So you saw the picture of me when I was a little girl. So I have always loved water. So I believe that we are water people, that this land thing that just gets in the way for all of us. So what inspired me was literally, I like to call it following the signs in life. And so when I was a kid, I was on swim team and I never left water, and I always just enjoyed it, whether it was kayaking or canoeing or just being on the lake, whether it was throwing stones in the water with my brothers. I just love water and being around water. And I think I'm not alone in that there's blue mind science all around us, that the ocean is a special place and that water is special. But when I traveled after college, I saw a sign that said, learn to scuba dive. And I said, I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to try scuba diving. And that was the initial entry. And from there, I looked at my instructor on my first experience and I said, I could do your job, travel the world as a scuba instructor. And I was a journalist in college. And so I did photojournalism and broadcast journalism. And so I married the two loves. I married the diving together with the connection for visual storytelling. So thanks for that question.
That's
I follow the signs in your life. They're all around you. If you tune into the signs, they're there.
And it's never too late to learn, right? Like you don't have to be 10 when you start. You can learn at any point in your life.
I think the oldest scuba diver I know is 96 years old.
Awesome.
So it does not matter your age as long as you have the will.
Awesome. Patti, can you tell us, like, what was the initial, you have lots of books on this sort of theme of ocean and environment. Like, what got you interested in that field initially?
Well, I had written a few books before Plastic Ahoy. And I was quite literally sitting at my breakfast table one morning reading the newspaper, and I saw this article about scientists leaving San Diego with the Scripps Institute to travel 1,000 miles into the North Pacific to study plastic. And the more I read, the more I just knew that this had to be a book. I followed the scientists along on their blog that they posted every day. Annie was on board ship with the scientists. So I contacted them all when they got back and asked them if they wanted to talk trash with me. And Annie was so excited, she whooped because nobody was talking about trash at that point. And we started a partnership that's at least a decade old now and 3 books old.
Amazing. That's a great origin story of how you met. And look at the great things that you've done together since then.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I find that scientists are now coming to me with their environmental stories. For Sea Otter Heroes, I met that scientist at a conference that I was speaking at with the Plastic Ahoy scientist, and he sat me down and he said, "I have your next book idea," and darned if he wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd like to just mention that, Katie, like sometimes a collaboration might start with a phone call and email. You know, just us being here, a part of this started with an email. And so I'd like to say that, you know, following the signs and following connections are really important, and that people are very accessible. And I'm just happy that Patti called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to collaborate?" And I said full-heartedly yes.
So you shared some great tips for becoming a more sustainable human. So making good choices about the things that we purchase and the things that we use every day. Sustainable fishing has been in the media a little bit with some documentary on Netflix and stuff recently. Can you share any tips about sustainable eating in terms of like eating fish at home?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we can do as consumers is make sure that the seafood that we are eating is labeled sustainable by the boards that do that. And you ask your grocery store, and I only shop for sustainable foods and sustainable seafoods now. So, and I even ask at restaurants if I'm thinking about ordering seafood. I think there's a restaurant in Seattle, Annie, that we profiled in our curriculum guide that serves only sustainable seafood. And we encourage people to ask the restaurants about their seafood. Where does it come from? How is it caught? And if they don't know, they should know.
Yeah, and I have something to add. It is in the media a lot, and I think that I'm so excited that it is, because what's happening is it's opening up a lot of conversations about it. The scientists that I work with here in the Pacific Northwest, as we're trying to, uncover some of what's going on with the salmon in our waters is there's a big one, and it is, know your fishermen who you're catching, who you're buying your fish from. And it's complicated, but because this conversation is opening and we know that the ocean has been negatively impacted through overfishing on many, many levels, but that there's billions of people who rely on the seafood from the ocean as their main source of protein. And so I think that we will not be able to fully discuss this, in these couple of minutes that we have, but that I'm going to encourage everybody out there to understand what it means to be sustainable and unsustainable, and then to think of action ways that they could learn more about this, because it's a topic that's going to be a very important one in the coming years. So thanks for that. Thanks for that question.
Definitely.
There are a lot of ideas in Planet Ocean as well. One of the last pages of the book has many, many different suggestions, from eating a plant-based diet once a week to purchasing sustainable seafood to using zero-waste lunches, all different kinds of ideas.
Yeah. And I think one of the resources that we like to point people to is Oceanwise Sustainable Seafood is based out of the Vancouver Aquarium, and they work very closely with the Monterey Bay Seafood Watch program, which I'm sure you're both familiar with. Right. And they do lots of great educational resources around what to look for, the questions to ask. And because we don't live near the coast, most people who are eating seafood do usually get it from a restaurant here. It's something that people typically order when they're out. So asking the restaurant those questions is great, and they definitely should know where it's coming from. You're right.
Katie, for all of these issues, for everybody watching us today, I think that it's important for all of us to realize that public awareness drives corporate and policy change. So you asking for sustainable seafood in restaurants that might not be sustainable, that's important. And know that your voice matters. It's going to take all of us raising our voices together to understand that we can make these changes in our world.
I love that story that you shared about the Girl Scouts getting Alaska Airlines to change their policy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I don't remember hearing about it in the news here.
Do you want me to jump in on that one?
Sure. Go ahead.
Or do you? So I think that straws aren't a very large part of the overall plastic pollution that's flowing into the ocean, but I think that single-use plastic like straws and cutlery are really good ways to make inroads. And so there was Girl Scouts who started a campaign, and they brought it to different places, and Alaska Airlines was one of the companies that listened to them and made the changes. And so when Patti and I talk about that your voice matters, that we really want to hear from you, when you work together with a group of your friends and family, it's amazing what a few people can do on this planet to create some great change.
Yeah, so inspiring.
And there are lots of other ideas too. The Girl Scouts were looking for a service project, like a lot of other groups do. But you could take a similar idea. When we all finally get back to school, you could look at your school lunchroom and see what kind of plastic is filtering through there. Are you using styrofoam trays? Are you using plastic cutlery? Are your foods wrapped in little cellophane wrappers? Start thinking about ways to reduce the plastic in your own school.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, even just since I started working at the aquarium, I think I'm so much more aware of this as an issue. Not that I was purposely going out and buying lots of single-use plastics before, but definitely making more of an effort here. And I'll throw in a plug too for everyone's using lots of PPE right now because we need to keep us safe, but to also make sure that if our friends are, when they're done with their PPE, that they make sure it gets disposed of properly because it's ending up everywhere right now. And we'd like to go out and do shoreline cleanups and that kind of stuff, but unfortunately, until things improve, we're going to have to keep that on hold for a while. So being responsible for our own usage is a key point.
Yeah, and I think it's important to make a note, Katie, that we can make these individual choices, but the reason why we encourage things like the 30-day challenge and opening your fridge and doing an assessment is we realize that for that shark behind you, and the turtle, like they're speaking to us, they're speaking to us right now, that we need not only individual action, but we need to come together as community and let our policyholders know that we need some change on a societal basis, and this is the world over. This is not, pointing fingers at Canada or Indonesia or US or anybody. It's us as people that need to raise our voices and say, we care about the environment. We are not going to let 11 million tons of plastic go into the ocean. We have to put a stop to this. But how do we know it's even going on if we're not having these conversations? So I think that individual actions and then community actions really, really do work. And so we just applaud, everything that you do within your organization to help shift this within our community.
I think we need to be aware as we increase this awareness, as we join together, as we patronize businesses like the aquarium that are completely on board with this message, that we have to remember that we have purchasing power. The items that we buy or don't buy and the reasons that we buy or don't buy matter to companies. And if we exercise that purchasing power, that's one gigantic way that we can speak up and continue to spread awareness.
Awesome. So we're coming close to the end of our time with you. So maybe I'll ask you each what your favorite aspect of creating this book was. So a cool place that you went to, or an amazing experience, or the coolest person that you got to interview for this story. Annie, do you want to start us off with yours?
No, pick Patti first.
Pick Patti, go first.
Go ahead, Annie. It's your turn.
No, it's Patti. So I'd say I don't have one. There is absolutely, I don't have one. It was the whole process of it. And maybe it was right now, and being able to do this and being able to stream and to share our story. And you take so long creating a project. Many people don't know this, but in that blizzard that Patti and I were on when we were doing Black-footed ferrets is when I started pitching her this story on Planet Ocean, and that was 5 years ago. And so I really saw this need to link carbon pollution to climate change and ocean acidification and make it very easy for everybody to understand. And I do feel like I'm a voice for the ocean, just one of many, but I feel like the ocean has presented itself to me. And so I think the whole book is a part of my heart and my soul. Like, I have an ocean soul, and to have a partner like Patti to be able to collaborate and to reach audiences that we might not have been able to reach, and then to have moments like these to get to share them with the world. This is what it's all about. If I can't be underwater in my kelp forests, I want to be talking about my kelp forests. I want to be talking about the ocean, because I want people to have a conversation about the ocean every single day and understand how important it is, and that the ocean needs us right now to live at one with our environment. And so I'd say my favorite moment is releasing this out into our world and having the response like this to be able to share Patti and I's story and journey, but only to inspire you to tell your stories too.
Amazing. Patti, can you follow that up with anything? Hard to top.
Well, I think my favorite part, a book requires a village. It's not just Annie and I on the team. It's the editor and the art director and all of the people at the publishers who help and support us and publicize. And so my favorite part of any book is always when the editor says, yes, we want to publish this. And the minute that happens, I know I have an audience. And if I have an audience, I can share with them all of the reasons that I find this book fascinating. Yes, Planet Ocean has ocean science in it, climate science. Some of it is just really difficult to understand. But remember, Planet Ocean is written for fourth graders. So if you want just a little bit of information about how climate science and how ocean science works, a book like Planet Ocean is for you. And then we've got, going along I guess my second favorite part, as Annie and I were choosing photos hour after hour after hour and working on QR code videos, I got an email from Jeff Bridges' assistant saying Jeff Bridges would love to talk about your book. And he sends us a message that Planet Ocean is a must read. How often do you get an Academy Award winning actor to say that your book is a must read? These are all, there's a series of favorite moments, but it all leads toward getting the book into readers' hands, because once we see that children are reading it, they're acting on it. I've talked to so many children in my school visits who truly care about the environment and are worried about what's happening. So just being able to get Planet Ocean in their hands is something that absolutely thrills me right down to my toes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been such a pleasure. It's such an inspiration speaking with you today. We will definitely share the link to your book, so all of our viewers, if they want to check out a copy for themselves, they can find out where to find it. And it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Katie. And I just want to end this with, thank you, ocean. We are who we are because of our ocean. And, again, I grew up with the Great Lakes as my backyard, like you do. And I just feel that everybody should be thanking our ocean every day and figuring out what we could do for it. So give the ocean a voice, speak up for it. We need you.
Thank